Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
Everything that you know today, you had to learn at some point. Okay, so don't beat yourself up thinking, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Or how am I meant to understand all this marketing, all this bookkeeping, everything to do with entrepreneurship? You were not born great, and that's okay. All right, nobody was born great. I mean, we all start off as tiny infants, nothing but a lump of flesh that can't even feed itself, that can't even do anything but cry for food, and we can't even do much on our own. And then we forget, when we get a bit older or whatever it is, we start beating ourselves for not knowing a lot of things, but we forget where we all started off from. Over the weekend, I had the opportunity to be reminded of this very phenomenon. You see, my kids are all grown up. One is 3 and the other one is 7. I mean, they're still kids, but I don't quite remember what it was like for when they were kids, And we had a relative coming over. They just had a newborn baby, and we were holding it for the first time, and the little kid was just opening their eyes, smiling. And, we just had to do everything for them, from feeding it to changing its diaper and everything else that comes along with it. And then I look across the table. My little girl wanted to fix a puzzle, that was on the table. And she was getting frustrated because she couldn't do it by herself. And I looked at the little kid that I was holding in my hands, and I was like, wait a minute. This was you not long ago, not more than 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So, stop being frustrated. You just got to learn how to do these things. Look at where you started off from. And everybody else in the house laughed, and I got content for this podcast. So there we are. But look at this. Forget about the beautiful paintings. Forget about the beautiful podcasts, even if I sound amazing. Forget about that. Forget about all the, websites that you see outside, the elegant singing, people winning Grammy Awards or being smacked in the face, after saying crazy things, or whatever persuasive or anything that you envy right now. You know what I mean? And just remember, when you were born, you couldn't even smile. You couldn't even feed yourself. You couldn't even change your own clothes. And then later on in life, maybe you're a coach, consultant, or small, medium business today. We often get frustrated with ourselves when we first try to learn a new skill. Like, I was watching my little girl from across the table. She's only 3 years old, but she wanted to do everything by herself. And she was expecting to be naturally good at it. And we expect this skill to come easily. I also remember for Christmas, we got my little girl a present, and maybe one of them was a PlayStation. I can't quite remember what it was, but every time I go into their toy room, she's trying to fix the things together. She's trying to fix the puzzle together, and it doesn't click. You know what I mean? Because she thinks she's supposed to be knowing how to do these certain things. What we forget is that every single skill, every single activity that we now know, from the back of our head, or even if somebody wakes us up in the morning, every single skill that comes easily to us now was once a hard thing to do. It wasn't easy at all. And we were when we were first born, coming to small things like even talking, right? Kids talk funny. Kids walk funny. They fall all the time. They can't walk straight. They have to learn how to maintain that balance and be active and run around at the same time while thinking. And then when they see somebody doing gymnastics, and then they beat themselves up for not being able to do that when they can't walk yet. Right? It's no effort to feed yourself right now. You're probably eating an apple by yourself, and you're even eating it in such a manner that you leave the core by itself, and it's a work of art after you finish chewing it. You know, you feeding yourself right now. You can write by yourself right now. I was actually laughing again. My little girl was getting frustrated because she was trying to copy, a sentence from a book so that she can write it by herself. And now she showed me the other day that she can at least not write one letter for the whole page. She can actually write in nice sentences. It's no effort for you to do small things right now. You can pick food up and place it in your mouth, even with your eyes closed. You didn't even think about that, did you? But when you were an infant, you picked up a spoon and, over and over, and even missed your mouth entirely, and you had food all over your mouth, And you probably had your mom running around trying to wipe that, food off of your mouth. And you did it all the time. It's not like, you just woke up and you were a good dresser like you are right now. You just woke up and you were a good consultant or a good coach or somebody who could speak better or something of that nature. I had to learn this English, for crying out loud. You didn't do it until you finally mastered the skill, right? You had to learn all of these things. You didn't learn anything overnight. Everything is, progression. You add on. It's a compounding feeling to whatever skill that you're creating. You might pick up some of the skills more easily than others, but you still had to work hard to develop those skills. You had to go and get, you've got to get comfortable with the idea that you're still learning, and that learning, never ends, and that you are gonna have to fail in order for you to actually master certain things. All right. You see, I'm very passionate about helping coaches and consultants and small business owners grow their business, because I know what it's like to come from nothing. I know what it's like to learn every single thing from scratch. All right. And it's just that these days everyone is so filled up with instant gratification that if you send a message to the queen, if she doesn't respond, you could actually tweet about it that she's rude and she can get cancelled. And that's the world we live in today. See, I was born in a small town in Zimbabwe in Africa, and growing up, life was pretty tough. We had to learn how to survive. We had to learn how to do everything else. And I've been in Australia 10 years, and 10 years ago, right about the time I left, that was when we had the first traffic light in my little city that I grew up in, right? So that meant we didn't have a lot of money, and hope, and we didn't even hope to amount to anything. Why? Because we didn't have any role models around us. So not having money meant we didn't have any resources, so we had to be resourceful. I had to learn, how to change the ink in a ballpoint pen. When it runs out, you use another, refiller. So what they say, you refill the ink in your pen. I was laughing at myself 3 weeks ago when a ballpoint pen finished. I just threw it out there, and I was just like, nah, it's much more work for me to try and fix it. Anything that was broken had to be taken to somebody to be fixed. And we were resourceful in that sense. You know what I mean? So just think of all the things that you had to learn how to do. Obviously, you had to learn how to speak. You had to learn how to write. You had to learn how to do certain things. So why are you beating up yourself when you can't maybe put content out there consistently? You just got to learn. And you don't learn anything overnight. All right. Yes, you might hear of people that you never knew about yesterday, but that doesn't mean they just showed up in your space yesterday. They've been learning all of these things in order for them to do and have a happier existence. And then all of that compounds and it becomes something. All right. And if you really understand what learning is, learning means failing a lot. How many times as a kid did you have to, fall down up until you could actually balance yourself? Even when you're trying to learn how to ride a bike, all right? Do you just wake up and then you get on a bike and then automatically you already know how to do that? Even horse riding, anything in life that we envy or we look at somebody else, they had to put in the work up until they could actually, showcase to us, how good they are at doing stuff. Again, over the weekend, I was watching this YouTube video. It's called "People Doing Amazing Things," where it's effortless. There's skiers that are just going down the slope as if they were born on the side of the mountain. There's people doing mountain bike racing where they are just going down in a busy street, and then they're not even banging into people or buildings or things of that nature, where they're not failing at all. And then you would start thinking of yourself, wait a minute, I can't even stir this coffee without spilling it. Something must be wrong with me. That's not it. It's years and years and years and years of beating on your craft up until you get it right. So what are you doing right now in order to increase the skills that you have? What are you doing right now in order for you to enhance, the capabilities of what you have, so that tomorrow you're going to show up in front of your audience and people will be like, wow, I want what she's got. I want what he's got. And the good news is, if you do it right, those failures will actually start working for you. Every time that spoon missed your mouth as a child, you learned what didn't work. I think it was Thomas Edison that said, I tried 10,000 times to create a light bulb, and then that's when I realized 10,000 ways not to create a light bulb. What are you doing 10,000 times in order for you to earn mastery in it? Are you writing 10,000 words a day? Have you got 10,000 episodes to your podcast? Or have you got 10,000 YouTube shows that people have watched, liked, and commented and posted out there? Have you written 10,000 books or 10,000 words that can comprise into an ebook? If you haven't done any of that stuff, then you haven't failed. You haven't started. All right? The good news, like I said, is that you can use these failures to your own advantage. Right? Every time that you fell as a kid, every time you missed your mouth with your spoon, you were learning what did not work. And then every time you got a bout in your mouth by sheer accident, you learned what did work. And guess what happens? You got feedback from your parents. Every time a kid walks 2-3 steps, everybody's like, yay! Videos are out, cameras are out, taking photos and everything else, celebrating that moment and just validating that kid in order for them to do it again. All right. Well, but if you do that to kids, they're going to continue wanting to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then for them, they're just yearning for that, validation or that feedback that you would have gotten them. And that's the attitude you want to bring to your rejection in your consulting, in all the work that you're doing. Whenever you hit a home run or something that's good, stay on it for a bit and then keep getting, the accolades or whatever it is that comes along with it. You might be a coach or consultant. Whenever you get maybe a bit of publicity or you are posted on or somebody, features you on a podcast, milk that moment because we all know that you're doing hard work, but moments like that are far and in between. So just sit there and just enjoy that moment for a bit, so that you can master the slightly more sophisticated skills that then make you a professional or somebody that is now, seen and heard. All right. One thing that we just gotta realize as coaches and consultants is understanding rejection. And I want you to understand that, yes, all rejection is not pointing fingers at other people for them not giving you an opportunity or a chance. It's all you. And I really want to say this with utmost love and respect. You know why? Because the people that are out there these days do not want to point a finger back at themselves so that they assume or take responsibility for any rejection that comes their way. If somebody rejects you for a job or for a service because you haven't given them enough proof or you haven't given them enough, social proof to show that you're the right person to do the job that they want you to do, is that their fault? It can't be their fault, because at the end of the day, people want proven ideas. People want things that are already proven out there. They don't want to go and read an ebook or a book from somebody who's, unproven, who's somebody who doesn't have any accolades behind them, behind them, because no one has that kind of time to wait until you've got it all figured out. So that's why you have to capitalize on all your rejections and learn from them. And that's why I said you have to understand what rejection actually is and what it's not. And yes, it's all to do with you. I was frequently frustrated with the repeat rejections that I was getting from being a digital marketer. You know what? Because everyone out there on the internet with a t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants and a laptop can call themselves a digital marketer. And then what was I bringing to the table that people would actually distinctly say, you know what, I want to go and work with this guy because of A, B, C. What was I putting out there that would show people that I can actually help them and make a difference to their business? All right. So you might be sitting there and thinking, nobody wants to buy what I'm selling. Nobody's picking up my phone. Nobody's responding to the emails that I'm sending them out there. It's just simply because you haven't given them a reason why. And that's the reason why we're getting all those rejections. Even if you're being rejected at something that you think you know how to do, have you proven yourself to anybody more than your father, your mother, or somebody who just gave you feedback because they care and they don't want you, to give up hope? Like I said, I was frequently frustrated. I even thought people were being racist. But no, I wasn't coming to the table with enough information. Up until I started putting out content every single day, and then I noticed, wait a minute. Why would I expect people to follow what I'm saying when I'm not even showing them I can help them by actually helping them? Why would I expect anyone to just jump onto my content when they've never heard of me? That we're not being racist. I was just not doing enough to step into their scene to break their pattern. You know why? Because when I'm here, I'm seeing all the content and all the social media stuff that I'm putting out there. But Sally, on the other hand, is being bombarded every single day by 10,000 pieces of content. What makes yours stand out? What makes yours, be the thing that she remembers and then goes out and actions upon? So I was frequently frustrated by all the repeated rejections in my digital marketing, and I would tell myself that I was a great digital marketer, I was a great speaker, and everything else that came along with it. And those people, they just didn't understand my style, or they didn't understand my accent, and I tell myself that they were the ones missing out. It was a lot, it was a lot like when I was a baby, giving the baby example just so that you understand. I was screaming at my mother for not getting food in my mouth properly, when in fact it was me that was wielding the spoon or closing my mouth or not going with the rhythm that she was working, in order to feed me. And sometimes I'll tell myself that my failure was somebody else's fault, because obviously it would make me feel a little bit better about the sting of rejection, which was excellent for encouraging me to keep trying. But eventually I'd run into somebody who was doing their job properly and was accepted, for what they were doing. And I would look at what they had done and I would notice, wait a minute, I don't even have an About Us page. I don't even have certain elements to my website. I don't even have XYZ content that other people are putting out there, which is a bare minimum for people to actually start looking at my work. And obviously, it wasn't doing much good in helping me actually improve my skills. It was actually depressing me. But then I realized I had to put out the work, because you get paid in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. Okay, so if you're not writing any content, if you're not putting out any ebooks or podcasts like this, how are people going to know who you are, and how are people going to start the journey with you? You see, the idea that I was really the one to blame for my own failures came around when I started looking at my competitors' websites, and I was actually sitting at a friend's office one day, and then we were just looking at, ideas on how to, create my website. And then that's when I started my usual tirade of, oh my God, I haven't started. And my friend started laughing at me, you know what I mean? At first, I was stung by his amusement at my obvious distress. But once I had settled down, I listened to what he had to say. He told me that in a business, even an online one, a business owner must know what they're doing in order to succeed. All right. How do you showcase that you know what you're doing? By putting content out there, by teaching other people, and by being interviewed, by what do you call it? Media, just so that you can share your expertise. They make a point out to be always learning about the industry's ins and outs, and what you've learned, you put it out. Like every time I learn a new strategy or anything else, I put it out on a podcast. So if they're turning me down, there's a reason. I haven't shown the marketplace that I know a thing or two about this digital marketing thing. You know why? Because in other industries, let's say in the real estate industry, there's people like Michael Yardney, or all the other people out there, Robert Kiyosaki, that started writing books, and they started showing up on Oprah, and they started doing courses, and then they created a game. You see how many pieces and touch points of content that they were putting out there, and there I was with a 5-page website with only one photo of me, and I hoped the whole world was going to start and take notice. They weren't rejecting me or my work or anything else, or that I was, bad at my job. They were rejecting my articles, or they were rejecting my content because I wasn't good at my job. I wasn't showing that I'm good. I wasn't showing that I'm here to stay. I wasn't showing that I've got it. In order to look after other people's businesses, because how could I look after their business if I couldn't look after my own? My work just wasn't good enough, and no business owner can afford to accept less than the best. You could sing your praises and everything else out through the window on top of every building, but if you don't create for and relate to your audience, how are they going to know the kind of value that you put out there in the marketplace? How can you grow your business and compete with the big players, people that are putting out ads out there, people that are putting out content, people that are helping their customers by actually helping them, and you just think you show up on the phone, or you just think you show up in the news feed or on their Facebook, and you would have changed their mind about whoever they've been trying to work with before? I understand as an entrepreneur, marketing is just one aspect of running a successful business. Going from hiring and managing new staff, you want to balance your books, you want to drive growth, and a whole lot more. And it feels like a constant balancing act where you are just pulled in multiple different directions all at once. And at the end of the day, your real goal is just to help your clients. You just want to spend as much time as possible, changing people's lives and solving people's problems. And you don't want to waste countless hours each week just trying to navigate the complex world of online marketing. And then there's people like me that show up every single day, right? Just wherever you look, I'm there. And then you think you can compete with that. So understanding rejection as a failure in myself, not the business owners that I was trying to reach out to, was a huge step to proving, to myself that I needed to put in the work. I can't just keep on, doing lackluster stuff and expecting, Grammy award type results. I had to improve each time that I was putting work out there. So what did I start doing? I started turning that rejection into education. When you understand that failure is your own fault, it's easy to get obviously depressed about it, and I'm sorry. You can cancel me if you want to, or write back to us and get a refund for this free podcast that you're listening to. But that's not the real lesson here. As a child, you probably got frustrated at your failures. Almost all the time. I see my little girl crying if the dog is not coming to her because she just expects things to work in a certain way. Bless her little brain, thinking that the world revolves around her little finger. Only dad does, honey. But that doesn't mean you gave up. While you were trying to walk, you gave up trying to feed yourself. You gave up trying to learn new words. You gave up, tying up your shoelaces. We never gave up any of those life experiences. Why are we giving up on our jobs right now? You might have gotten frustrated on any given day and you walked away from the skill that you're trying to master. Obviously, maybe you wanted to make a kite, or you wanted to draw something, and then you just scribble around it because you're frustrated because it's not coming out exactly like the Mickey Mouse that you're trying to imitate. From there, that Mickey Mouse was drawn by a world-renowned artist, Walt Disney, and you just picked up a pencil today and you think you can compete with people that have been doing it all their lives. Let me tell you something, man. We're always here to leave, to learn, and to contribute. Very few of us are doing the learning part. So here's the big question. Is being a successful coach, consultant, or small business owner important to you? Is it important enough for you to keep working at it? Is it important enough, that even when it's frustrating to fail, even when you're feeling like giving up, you keep pushing stubbornly forward, a beat by beat? Is it important enough for the clients that you're going to save? Is it important enough because each and every time that you put work out there, you make somebody else's life better? Let me tell you something. Rejection can be a great tool for your own self-improvement. Think of rejection as a form of free education. Because when somebody tells you, sorry, we can't take you on today, they give you a reason why, and then you learn. Because whenever something you either wrote or some podcast that you put out there gets rejected, maybe by a client or maybe by whoever you did it for, just ask why. Ask why. Help me so that I can improve in the future. Because sometimes they'll provide their reasons and sometimes you'll be left to figure it out on your own. But at the end of the day, you discover that there's some critical part of what you did and maybe what you did wrong that isn't quite working for the clients. And then guess what you're going to do? You're not going to keep flogging a dead horse. You're going to use that part to learn something new or a new skill and then do it better the next time. For me, I jumped subjects way too often, you know what I mean? I had my clients tell me, that my content or my blogs didn't have a point. And it felt like a bunch of words rammed together without an underlying connection. Because you know what? Back in the time with SEO, you had to put a lot of keywords together. And first of all, English was not my first language. After I had enough of this, I realized that it was a large weakness of mine. So I put in the efforts to fixing that problem. I started learning. I started reading a lot of books. I started, learning copywriting. And I started to write up articles for each piece. And then maybe I was just filling each section with information that was relevant. And this made each article that I was doing a little bit longer, a little bit meatier, and a little bit more value. But I started to actually start making money from that because I was now giving value to the marketplace. Like I said earlier on, we get paid in direct proportion to the value that we bring to the marketplace. So what did I start doing? I started turning all of that rejection into education. Right? Because when you turn rejection into education, it can actually help you from getting maybe stressed out and you giving up. Instead, you actually give yourself a specific area to work on, and then you actually master that important skill. Because the more you are learning about something, the more of an expert you become. And that's important. I mean, all the kids are encouraged to keep working hard. And, when we see a little bit of an improvement in whatever they're doing, don't we clap hands for them? They don't need to master everything at once. When you're riding a bicycle, first you have to learn the balance and then controlling the handlebars and then maybe the brakes a little bit. But you can't learn everything else all at once. And at every stage, every little level has its own little devils. And then at every stage, there's, accolades that come for that, You don't need to learn everything all at once, but you do really need to see, every moment that you have improved and then build upon that. You and your business are no different. So if you just try to improve one single aspect of what you're doing, your content, one single aspect of your social media, one single aspect of maybe your speech, one single aspect of whatever it is that you're putting out there, and maybe you might get frustrated, obviously, because we are in the instant generation world, or maybe you might be rejected by clients. It's just an indication that you have some more learning to do. And if you try to improve in a specific area, either in your writing, in your speaking, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you get feedback in that specific area, turn that into a positive, and you know that you're actually making progress. Because if you don't have people that are clapping hands behind you, then that means you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying, my friend. So each failure that you're going to come across, use that to be a stepping stone for the next success. Because once you've learned how to use this criticism and rejection to actually improve on your work, you start to realize that failure can actually become a large key to your own success. It's not just about realizing that you're doing something wrong and fixing it. It's about actually mastering each part of the work that you're putting out there, and so that you don't repeat that same mistake. And let me tell you something. If you get discouraged, just remember, every skill you think of as maybe effortless, or something that you can do without even thinking, was once incredibly hard for you. And if you keep working on either your writing, your podcasting, you're even engaging with your clients, or with your, people that are going to be paying you money, you soon find out that it becomes one of those skills that is effortless to you in the future, even though it's a lot of work for you to accomplish right now. Failure is just a chance for you to skip that little pit of mediocrity that a lot of coaches and consultants jump into, and they never decide to go out of it. And it's not rare, right? It's not a rare opportunity. It's just one of those things that people don't notice, and people don't actually dust themselves up and try again. And when you see it, embrace failure with both hands and legs if you can, because you can start using it to excel and create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. I can't wait to celebrate with you. Whether you're failing or whether you're succeeding, to me, you are just somebody who's moving forward, and keep pressing forward. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au.